In what sense were the Ephesians, by nature, children of wrath? When Paul wrote to the Ephesians, he described their former way of life with strong words. He said they were by nature children of wrath, Ephesians 2:3. This phrase has often been misunderstood. Some claim it teaches that all humans are born sinful, having inherited guilt from Adam. But is that what Paul meant? When we take a closer look at both the immediate and larger context of Scripture, we find a very different meaning. In Ephesians 2:1-3, Paul describes how the Ephesians once lived. They walked according to the course of this world. They followed the prince of the power of the air, and they fulfilled the desires of the flesh and the mind. Their sinful behavior was not something they were born into without any choice. Rather, by repeatedly choosing sin, they allowed it to shape their lives until it became second nature. Sin was not their inherited condition. It became their habitual practice. The word nature in this passage does not point to birth, but to character shaped by habit. Paul uses the same word in 1 Corinthians 11:14 when he asks, "Does not even nature itself teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a dishonor to him?" Here, nature refers to custom, not biology. It was the established practice of society, not something woven into the laws of the universe. In the same way, the Ephesians became by nature children of wrath because they lived a life of continual disobedience. Sin became their custom and character, not their birthright. This interpretation fits perfectly with the overall teaching of the Bible. Ezekiel chapter 18 verse 20 makes it very plain. "The soul who sins shall die. The son shall not bear the guilt of the father, nor the father bear the guilt of the son. Each person stands responsible for his or her own actions." Sin is not a disease passed down from parent to child. It is the result of personal choice. Furthermore, if people were born sinful and could not help but sin, it would be unjust for God to punish them. Yet the Scriptures are clear that God is just. Zechariah chapter 12 verse 1 tells us that God forms the spirit of man within him. If God created man's spirit already corrupt, then God would be responsible for man's sin, and that is something the Bible firmly denies. Paul's point in Ephesians 2 is that the Ephesians had made themselves children of wrath by choosing to sin again and again. Wrath came not because of inherited guilt, but because of persistent rebellion. They had walked so long in sin that it became the normal path they traveled. Think about it like a trail in the woods. When a person walks the same way every day, the trail gets clearer and easier to follow. Before long, it feels natural to walk that path, even if it leads to danger. Sin works in the same way. Each sinful choice makes the next one easier until sin feels like the natural thing to do. But just as people choose which trail they walk, they choose whether to follow sin or righteousness. The encouraging message in Ephesians 2 is that change is possible. Those who were once dead in trespasses and sins have been made alive through Christ. Just as bad habits are formed by repetition, good habits can be formed by faithful obedience. Romans 12 verse 2 says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Transformation is not only possible, it is expected. The Ephesians story serves as both a warning and a promise. It warns us that persistent sin can shape who we become, but it promises that through Christ anyone can be rescued from that old life. No one has to remain a child of wrath. By God's grace, anyone can become a child of God, walking in newness of life, shaped not by rebellion but by righteousness.